Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today once again. So we're grateful you are here. Today, we're going to be looking at creating your own HTML widget in R. So without taking much of our time, I will go through the agenda for today. So our agenda for today, welcoming you all, and we want to appreciate your presence here once more. So also we're going to be going through introducing our organizers, then I'll introduce the speaker, then we'll go through what the speaker has for us today. So our sponsors are our consortium and the Business Data Laboratory Limited. So before I go into introducing our speaker, so we are Abuja, our user group. We're based here in Nigeria, Abuja, the capital city of the country. So we're an organizer that's a local community of our users here in Nigeria. So we have so many other our user groups here in Nigeria. So, but we are also advocating for what we believe in and what our consortium assigned us to do. So we're sharing our knowledge in R and we're building a community, helping ourselves to grow here in Nigeria. So we're also one of a big family. Our members also span across the world. Just like you are here, we have Wendy from Canada. We're really appreciative of all of you joining us today. So thank you so much. So today I'm going to be the speaker. So I'm going to be taking you through a brief introduction on how to create HTML widget. That's a wrapper around JavaScript libraries. So today I will take you through a short presentation and also a brief walkthrough. I'll be selecting a JavaScript library. So we'll take you through how to kind of bring up the widgets, add the libraries that are dependencies for the widgets, and we also see how it's working. So it's going to be a live presentation. So thank you so much. Let me go to my slides. So I believe you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. Take this Zoom whenever out of the way. Okay. Okay, so start from the beginning. Okay, so just like I explained, thank you for joining us. We're going to be looking at creating our own widgets, HTML widgets. This is born out of a current project that I'm working on. I'm one of the champions for our open site. So I've really gone through a journey that I believe I should share my knowledge. So I'm using this opportunity to share what I've learned so far. I'm not going to go into the complications of HTML widgets because it's kind of a steep journey. It's not so funny, but it's interesting. So that's just what I will say from my experience. So the agenda today will be, we're going to give a brief introduction. So what is HTML widget? Then we'll go through a live walkthrough. Then I'll take questions and answers after my presentation. So a brief about me, I'm Bilikisu Olatunji. So I'm a data scientist and Okay, sorry. Okay, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. So thank you so much. I hope you can still see my screens. So if the internet is going to be fluctuating, I will go off the camera when I'm doing my presentation so that I can kind of manage the data. So, so this is a brief about me. So I will, okay. So today's goal is to walk through a simple HTML widget creation. So if I have enough time, I'll go more deep, but if not, we'll stay with the basics. So what's HTML widget and why HTML widgets? So HTML widget is the integration of JavaScript with R using HTML widgets package. So it focuses on libraries, that's JavaScript libraries that produce visual outputs. So it's often used for data visualization, but it's not limited to it. So you can have HTML widget for different purposes, but majorly we're looking at visuals. So I'm taking this definition or explanation from John Coe's, I hope I pronounce that that is his book, JavaScript in R. So you can I'll share my reference that you can read more about this in his book. So if we want to look at creating an HTML widget, like we explained, HTML widget actually gives us the opportunity to interact with JavaScript, because JavaScript gives us more opportunities to work with the web, like the presentation that we had last week. So knowing a little bit about JavaScript gives us a bit of a leap about just being an R developer. So one thing about HTML widget is that, okay, there's a package that's HTML widgets that's allowing us to interact with JavaScript and the web that can allow us to get access to JavaScript library that are actually not available in R. So for us to create our widget that's a wrapper around that JavaScript library, we need to, first of all, get an understanding of the library itself. So there are documentations about those libraries online that you have to read and get really a deep understanding, but you don't have to know it all when you're starting with it. So as you're working on the wrapper or the widget, you get to read more. Read more about the library, and then you'll be able to kind of figure out how to manipulate and go around stuff. So then we have to look at the breakdown of the installation. How do we get it installed or get to use it in R? So this is also part of the documentation that you will be reading in the first highlighted steps that you have to take. So then we have to also look at examples of how JavaScript library was used, how is it used to create visuals on the web. Then we'll be able to translate that into how we can implement it in R. Then before we start to work with it in R, so it is advised to properly experience using the library as it was intended. That's with JavaScript and HTML. So you have to kind of look at how can I see what this library is doing by looking at it from the web angle before coming into R. So how does it work? So basically, this JavaScript library doesn't exist in the R world. It only exists on the web. So when we're talking about the web, we will be looking at HTML documents. So when we're talking about HTML documents, we're looking at a web page that has an extension of a .html. So this is where JavaScript exists. This is where it lives. This is where you can see it's kind of working. Basically, that's just what I would say now. So on the web or in an HTML document, you will be able to see JavaScript working with data objects like JSON. Then also for the script, the JavaScript itself, for it to work with that library, there are usually dependencies that you would be working with. So these dependencies has to be taken into consideration when you want to create the wrapper or the implementation in R. So then we'll now look at, okay, how from the JSON object as the data and the dependencies, the JavaScript now coins everything together to be able to create the visual that you will be seeing on the HTML widget. So for us now, coming from the R world or the R environment, we need to serialize our data and also the chat options that we're going to be passing to the web. That's the HTML world. So but if you serialize your data, that means you are sending a JSON object to the JavaScript. So as well as we have dependencies already there, then the JavaScript will now be able to translate that into a visual for us, just like we would have it if we're not coming from R. So, and with this is actually the primary execution of creating the wrapper. So if you have to go further, you have to make sure that your widget actually not just create the visuals, but it's also able to work with other documents in R, like R Markdown, Shiny, and other environments as well, maybe an R package. So with this little explanation, let me go into R Studio. So if you want to join me, it's simple. We're not going to do something complicated here or something kind of difficult, but we're going to be looking at, okay, we're going to be taking the steps one by one. So if you want to open your R Studio, open it on your side. I will do the same thing here. So let me just take this out. Okay, so now we're going to the example that we're going to look at. We're going to assume we want to create a data maps wrapper for the data maps library here. So this is the documentation. I will share that with you so you can, I will share it on the charts now. So you can also look at it. So from the steps or the advice we've been given by John, we need to read the documentation well. So now we don't have much time here, but you can do the exercise on your own, or you can also search for other libraries. Like you just search JavaScript libraries. You can search for JavaScript libraries online. So we have so many libraries like this one web page. And also you can look at some other implementations. Let me just get us to have so much information about this before we dive deep into the unknown, okay? So this is the HTML widget website. And this is where you can find all JavaScript libraries that have been brought into R. They've created a wrapper around it. And if you want to really master creating your HTML widgets, it's better to look at examples online. So these are the examples that you can see some of the examples of HTML widgets that have been created, or some that are still in progress. They are modifying it every day. So you can see the various types, different ones, like the Plotly. We have so many here. So if you want to choose any, you can search online. There are some that are free, there are some that are not free. So from this website, we have so many that you can look through. So but I would rather streamline JavaScript visualization libraries. Okay, So there's one there, Go.js. So I don't know if that is free. So let me look at this. So if you look at my screen now, we have so many. I know of D3 has been implemented in R. I'm not sure of Richard's, but I know, okay, I'm working on ChatKick. So I know of Chat.js is there. eChat has been created by John. So I'm not sure. Okay, I know of iChat as well. So if you want to see more, there's Plotly and all this stuff. You can check through the showcase page or the gallery. So all these will give you examples of so many widgets that have been created around JavaScript libraries. So these are examples here. So you can look through and look at how they were implemented, then you'll be able to get a good grip of how you can go on with your own HTML widgets. So these are examples. So now let's go back to the one that we're looking at today. So we're looking at data maps. So data maps is a JavaScript library. So it's for customizable SVG map visualizations for the web in a single JavaScript file using D3. So this is actually, from this statement here, it's telling us that the library is actually built around another library called d3.js. So that is one thing that you have to hold grip really tight to your hands that, okay, you don't lose that. So then we look at the documentation. This is the documentation. We can look through, there we have visuals here. But if you're not getting much information here, we can go to getting started. So here we'll see how you can use it on the web, but I'm not going to take much time. So I'll just briefly go into how you can actually create a widget, a dummy widget that has the name data maps. So from here, the example states that if we want to run it on the web or create an HTML widget, an HTML file to see how this is working, then you have to have some dependencies. So these are the files that you have to bring in for it to work. Without these scripts, these JavaScripts, your visuals will not be displayed. So we need to put this down and know that, okay, we have to add this to whatever implementation we're having in R. So before we're now going to, okay, we can have the visual created in a div tag. So then we use a JavaScript to create a basic visual online. So this is an example of what we can do there. So, but let's go and start creating a widget in RStudio. So just open RStudio fresh. Don't create any project. Don't create any project. So I will be copying some codes, sharing some codes so that I will save time. I want you to create something on your side there. So if you don't have the library, use this. It's a package in R. You can install it now. So I'll share it on the chat. So I'm putting that there. So just copy this, put it in the console and run it. So we need this. So the next thing is that I'm not sure if you're familiar with creating packages in R. This is something that you have to have a background knowledge of as well. So, but that is for another day, but you can read up on how to create R packages in R. So for us to create an R package in R, you need to use the function create underscore package. This function belongs to the use this library. So just load your library, that's the use this, or just copy what I have in the chat. Then you run it in the console. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to create, I'm going to use the data map now. For me, I'm going to use that now. So, or use data maps. Let me just put that new one because I've already created the package to it. To let's follow along. I'm adding an S to it so that I have something different from it in my on my system here. So I'm going to run that. I hope you can see my R Studio. So kindly confirm if you can see my R Studio. Okay. Okay, so if you have the code that I sent on the chart, so let's copy that and put it in here. Don't forget to add the S. So I'm going to add the S to it so that I have a different one. I've already implemented this earlier. So I will run this. So it's going to, this code is going to create a basic data maps R package for us. So don't be alarmed. If you run this in your console, you're going to open another instance of R Studio. So that's where it's going to display the package for us. So I'm going to run this. So please, if you have a different, I'm adding my repository because that's where I keep my R projects. So, but if you want to create it in a different repository, kindly modify what I've sent to you, add the kind of the path to where you want your R package, maybe your desktop or your document, just modify it to have it there. So that is it. So now if you, I don't know if I still on data maps. Okay, let me go to data maps now. So I have a new R Studio instance open for me. So this is what I'm going to be using now. So the earlier one that I used, the earlier one that was blank, no project open, nothing. This is what it ran. So it's going to give you all this information and also open a new instance of R Studio. So it's created an R package for me in this directory. So, and all the files, the description file, everything has been added for me. So it's just for me to modify what I have there. So I'm going to go back to the new R instance that was opened. So let me see that. Okay. So if we're together, the next thing that we need to do is I'm going to create the scaffolds for, that's the files that we need to create the HTML widget. So what we need to do, I'm going to share the code again. So we're going to run a function that belongs to the HTML widgets package. So if you have HTML widget package installed, fine. If it's not, then you can use the package name, colon, then the function. Can actually get you to have it installed, then you can run the code. So this is what you need to do. So we'll have some files created for us in our new package now. So I'm going to do that. I hope you can still see my screen. Okay, so I'm actually, let me be sure that I'm sharing the correct, okay. So I'm going to run this line of code, then we should have some files created for us. So let me stop sharing. I want to be sure that I have the correct one opened. So this is what will happen. When you run the code that I shared with you, you're going to have 3 files created for you in the R, one in the R folder, that's the datamap.r. Okay, sorry. Oh, I mean, I have add the S as well. Okay, so I think I'm in here. So from where we stopped, um, okay, so from where we stopped, we actually ran this line of code and it created 3 files for us. So we have the one file in the R repository, that's the folder. So it's called the data maps.r. So then another one, that's the YAML file, .yaml, that's data maps.yaml. That's where we're going to add our extensions, dependencies, sorry. The dependencies are going to be there. We're going to add the path to those um, dependencies, that the files, the JavaScript file that our package is going to depend on. So then the last one is a JavaScript file. So this is going to all be in, which you can see inside the inst folder that was created for us. Then if you go in, you'll see the HTML widget, then you'll be able to see these files that were created for us. Then in the main folder, you go into the R folder, then you see the one that belongs to the R as the R file. So now we're on the right track. We're good. So at this point, we can try to examine what we've done so far. So, but before we go there, because we're working with our package, we need to make sure that our package is documented. So I'll just give you another code that you can run, basically to give us the opportunity to, one, we're going to have a documentation about our package or HTML, the HTML widget that we're creating today. So kindly run that. I'll do the same thing on my side here. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to put this in my console. Okay. Okay, I missed that. Okay, okay, okay. So we have a document created for us, and now the extension file, that's for the description documentation. So it's going to be in the man folder where we can see kind of the documentation on both the R implementation and Shiny. So then now I think at this stage we are good. We can see what an HTML widget actually looks like. So I'm going to load this now package now. That's the HTML package. So we're going to use load all. So let me copy this and place that in the chat. So if you load it, you'll be able to load the R package or our HTML package in this instance. So I'm sending the code there. So run this, we have it loaded now. Maps. Okay, the message is missing now. So let me just add something basic there. So I'll send this down. Maps. So what we're trying to, I will explain what is actually going on behind the scene. So For any HTML widget, the default function is going to be the widget name. Except you want to, I don't know if you want to change that, but we can argument that it's going to accept is message. So you need to give it a message. The message now can be turned into a data file or maybe a JSON file or something, or serialized for it to work. So I will explain all the steps without taking much of the time after this. So I will run this. Okay, sorry. So it's about my earlier implementation. That's I use data map instead of data maps. So that is it. So now if you look in on your right side, if you're using the same kind of structuring of your RStudio, you'll be able to see it on your right side through the viewer pane. So if you look at this, it's displaying the message that I passed to it. This is the data map widget. So if you right click on the document that you're seeing in the viewer and click inspect, it's going to show you, this is not, it's kind of choky here, but you can also view it on the browser. That means it's generating an HTML file for us. So if you look look at what is being displayed there, you see it's an HTML file that was created for us because the library that we're trying to create a wrapper for in R is from the web. That's a JavaScript library that is creating visuals on the browser through an HTML document. So that's basically what is happening here. So that's why we're looking at integrating with R Markdown, Shiny, and the rest. So if you're not okay with this or you want to see more, just click the white button with an arrow. It's saying show in new window. So if you click on that, it's definitely going to take you to the browser. So let me share what I have there on the browser. So if you can see my browser, you can see it's actually displaying something from a file from your session called index.html. So if you right click on it or you want to do developer way, you can click on the button, the three dot button on each other. Then you'll be able to go to more tools, then developer tools. The same thing, or use the Ctrl+Shift+I. So you'll be able to see the code that is running behind this document that you view in the browser. This is an HTML document. So you can view what is there. You can see, for those who are familiar with JavaScript, this is a JavaScript object. If you see where I'm clicking now, it's telling you that this is an HTML widget and the type is application/JSON. So this has been serialized into JSON for JavaScript to take it and help us to have something on the browser. So from the picture that I showed in the presentation, this is actually what is happening. We're coming from our data, or the message that we're sending has been turned into a JavaScript, a JSON object that now sent into JavaScript, and JavaScript is helping us to show it on the browser. So if you want to take it further, you'll be able to change this to an actual data object. But I'm looking at the time. We don't have much time. So I want to take us down to the stage where you add the dependencies. So we're still on the browser. Let's go back to the documentation. So the documentation states that we need to have 3 dependencies now in our HTML widget. So these are the d3.mean.js. That's the first JavaScript file that we needed. Topo.json.minify, that's a minified version of the file, then .js. Then we have that really talks to the data maps library itself, the data maps.world.main.js. So there's a way we can bring the dependencies into R. So I'm going to take you back to R Studio. So this is where our R Studio is. So I'm going to show you, let me go share my screen again. No. Okay, that's where we are now. So I hope you can see my R Studio now. So the file here in our project file, that's our package file. If you look at my screen, there are some files that are already displayed in the source pane. So one is datamaps.r, then another one is datamaps.yaml. So where we can add our dependencies is that file, the .yaml file. So, and an example has been commented out for us. So if we want to add dependencies now, what we need to do, it says on comment to add dependency. If you want to add the dependency, look at the implementation from the HTML world, okay? Look at how the files have been arranged. The first one has to come first, the second has to come second, and the third has to come, and so on and so forth. We have to arrange it just the same way that it was used on the web, the same way we're going to arrange them here in R. So if I uncomment this out, Ctrl+Shift+C, you'll be able to uncomment that out. And remember, the tabs, the tabulation here has to, the spacing and everything has to be the same thing. You have to make sure it's the same. So I'm going to share the project later, and then you'll be able to have some files that you can add to it. But I'm not going to exit because I have another meeting by 6, but I'm going to take an excuse there. So let's round up on this. I'm going to take out what I've done earlier. Ctrl+C. So bringing this down. So I'm still sharing my screen, I hope. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to copy and paste here. So we don't take much of our time there. So this, what I'm doing there is that if you go back, if you go to the browser from the link that I shared with you, these three.js is actually the first dependencies that we have there. The next one was topo.json. Then the third one was actually, okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, sorry, I didn't modify this one. So this is going to be topo.json.main.js. So all these dependencies are what you're going to, sorry, it's for, I'm actually using from, so I'm going to modify this. I'll share the link to the project with you later for those who want to follow up on that. So I'm going to change this to data maps. Okay, so I'll have data maps dot world dot js, I think. Let me go back to the browser. So kind of world dot, okay, it's a minified. Okay, so I have something else to add there. Okay, good. So I'll explain the steps that I've taken. I have to follow what actually came up on the browser. We have three dependencies, the D3 file, that's the d3.main.js. So I'm going to keep the files in a folder. I'm creating a folder inside of the htmlwidgets folder. So that is going to be called data maps. Okay. So within these data maps, I'm going to copy these files. I've downloaded them from the browser, from the web. So this file has to be within your HTML widget package for it to work. So I'm not going to be able to complete the whole implementation here, but this is actually what you need. So if you have this well written this way, it should work. And if you have any problem along the way or something, or you're working on a different project or HTML widget, we can share ideas or experiences with each other. You can link up with me on LinkedIn, then maybe we can take it up from there. So then, okay, I think this is it. So I've saved this. So with this, if you copy the files, let me just move some files here. Okay, this. Okay. Okay. Took out so much. Okay, I need this. So I'm trying to copy the files that I needed and then place it into, so Control X into the folder. So I don't need this anymore. Take that out. Okay. I think I can go to my R Studio now. Okay. So if I go back to my R Studio, I'll share my screen. Sorry for that. Data maps. Okay. So now I have all the files inside the data maps folder. And that is why I'm creating an SRC stating that whenever you're loading this package, you're looking for the dependencies, you'll find them in the data maps folder. So, and you have to add the version if you know the version. So I actually don't know that of the data maps dots. Well, let me just go back and see. Okay, there's no version here. So I would have to take that. I'll take that out from there. So if I can get the version later, I'll add that to it before posting online. So if you know the version, you have to add it. It is very, very important because there are so many different versions, updates that are coming on all these libraries. So it depends on which one you want to use. So that has to also relate with the file that you're going to download as your dependencies. So these are just the way you can reference those dependencies for the package to work well. So this is okay now. I believe it should work. Then let's go to the JavaScript file that was created for us. Okay, before I go to that, looking at the time. So what you need to understand for the R file, where we're actually passing the message that was displayed on the browser for us is from the function data maps that was created for us. So it's accepting an argument called message. So the message now is passed into this X object, which is going to be a list. And this is what will be serialized and sent to our JavaScript file. And if I take you out here, so this is where the widget is going to create its object, its own object from. So that is what you're going to see as the visual on the browser in R in your viewer. So I'll go to the JavaScript file. So this is where the X object is being accepted. So you can modify the width, the height as you want. But remember, this message is not, it shouldn't be just a statement like we used. It should be a data object. And if you can kind of read up more, I'll share references to JavaScript in our book. It's free online. If you read that up, you'll be able to see how this is working better. So, but basically, we have a working HTML widget now that we can improve on for future purposes. So this is where I'm going to stop today. We've seen our widgets working. We've loaded it. We've created it as a package and an HTML widgets now. So this is actually a simple widget that we can still, okay. Sorry, error version. Okay, sorry. I think there's a problem with the version now. So I have to modify that. So, but if I take all those ones out and leave it as a comment, let me comment this out. Okay. So this will still work if I run it now and kind of, let's build it. So we check. Basically, if you want to check your library if it's working well, you have to run this. So let me just run, then we'll be able to. So while this is going on, I want to get questions from you so that we can round up. Okay, I got stuck because a data maps folder wasn't created in the HTML. Now you have to create the folder yourself. You have to create that folder, or if you don't want to put it in the data maps folder, then you'd have to maybe put it directly in the HTML widget. But I think it will be much more neater, well organized if you put it in a folder like that. So, but there's no error. Okay, the dependencies now. Okay, I've not added that into. So, okay, let me fix that up. HTML widgets. Where did your H come from? Okay, the HTML, the index.html file comes when you run the function. That's the function for your file, your HTML widget. That's the data maps function. You pass it the default argument, that's the message. You give it that, then you run it in your console. It now creates a .html file for you, which allows you to see your visual on the browser. That's why you are viewing it. It's not displaying in your console like you normally see from a R object. So you can now see it in the browser. It's not going to show you the name of the file when you view it in the viewer here in our studio. But when you now decide to view it on the browser, it gives it that default name. It's a default name that is going to be that you is given when you run it in our studio. But if you're going into Shiny, so it's going to be the name of your file there. So it's not going to be the index.html. It depends on what. Okay, I see. My message image didn't open in viewer. I'll try again. Okay, if you actually follow, maybe you can watch the recording later. If you follow through with what I've done so far, I think your message should show up first before let me just fix my issues here. Okay, watching the time, description. So I'm going to import. Okay. Sorry, let me just see how many of this. So let me see if I can fix the dependencies from what I had earlier. But basically, okay. Okay, I'll push this here. So the dependencies now, okay. I'll have to, I'm looking at the documentation here. Let's see. Okay. I can't see the versions here, but I'll do more research. I just want to use that as an example. So because I don't want to use my own project because that would be something that, okay, it's still ongoing. So that is just what we have here. So let me run through. data. So I think I can fix this now. Let me go back. So if you have any other questions, let me take that now. Then I'll be rounding up. Okay. Please just try and check the steps. Okay, still. Okay, titles. Okay, that's a lot of work. Okay, yeah, I'm coming. Where? The title. Okay, the description. Okay, let me just try my best here to fix the error before. Details. Save. Go back. Check. So I will be using this opportunity to thank you all for joining us today. Okay, that's okay, data maps. Let me check on that. Yes. Oh, well, this could fix it. Mm. Okay, still getting title field. Okay, I don't know. Okay. Okay, let's see. Hopefully this should work. Mm. Okay, I actually didn't encounter this, so let me see what I can do there. Okay, let me try to fix that. Just title. Let's hope this will fix this. Okay, that'll be data maps. Okay, hopefully this could be okay. A question there. Okay, thanks so much. Okay, I'll dig it bit. Okay, thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you. Okay, yeah, you as a developer or an artist, everybody write codes. You get into issues, you have to continue to um fix it up. So that's why we have a community. We'll always be there to support ourselves. Oh boy, that's it. So I think at this point, I want to say a big thank you. Okay, thank you, Wendy. Yeah, it's really a bold step to do live coding. So, but I think as instructors, we have to get used to it. So thank you so much for staying there with me. So I will try my best to fix it up and share the working code. So I will be able to share that and also update that on the YouTube channel for any further information that I want to add. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. At this point, I would want to round up and I look forward to seeing you one more time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.